Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. Hosted by me, Mareen, on RCI. Well, good morning and welcome. This is She Speaks for today, Tuesday. It is the 12th day in the month of May. The best month in the year. I said what I said. Argue with somebody else, not me. I was born in May. And this morning we've got the privilege and the honor of connecting with a Grenadian sister, who is doing some amazing stuff. Very recently, we've seen quite a push, an a push in the advocacy in terms of inclusion for every person, and autism has been a very big part of the conversation as well moving forward. We even saw recently the launching of the Harper group right here in St. Lucia, and they have been hitting the ground running as well. So definitely, even on the government side right here, we've seen a ministry, erected dealing with special needs, special education and special needs. And so we I guess we are definitely finally getting we're getting it that it's important for us to go beyond the lip service when it comes to issues of or matters of that nature. So we are grateful that this lady have decided to join us, because it's right up her alley, and it's important as well that when we do things, especially within the region, that we do not do them in separation, because I believe we can do so much more if we understand the strength that we have amongst and we can collaborate and we can make this thing, a regional sort of drive, and then it makes it easier. I really do believe in that. So I am grateful that Michele Francis is going to be joining us this morning. Let's say thank you, of course, to our partner, the First National Bank, for again supporting this vision right here and creating the means so that these sort of connections could be made. So thank you. Let's take a word from them, and when we come back, we're going to be joining our guest. We'll bringing up our guest on screen, and you will get to meet her, and we'll definitely start the conversation. Remember, we are live on our Facebook feed. We are also live on the YouTube as well. Facebook, we are at the official page of Radio Caribbean International, and on YouTube, we are there at Radio Caribbean International. So we'll be back. A word from our partner.
Shot. Carnival costumes, yeah, we giving out 4 plus 1,000 cash. Tell me who want more. Tap to the Vaval. Win big, have a ball. Don't you start. First National got it all. Sign up online or visit a branch today. Get your credit card June 30, don't delay.
Right. Well, it's time now for me to bring my guest up, and it's none other than Michele Francis. Michele, are you there? Are you hearing me? I'm not hearing her. Okay, I did mute her mic. Right. Are you hearing me, Michele?
Yes, I am hearing you loud
great
and
that you
clear.
are loud and clear and strong and powerful. We absolutely appreciate it. We like it like that. Let me say welcome to you, Michele. Welcome to She Speaks. Thanks for what you're doing, but even more so, thank you for saying yes to this conversation this morning, and definitely having the foresight, the insight, because it is what you do. You don't just focus on autism and you focus on Grenada. You're based overseas, and when you speak of the need for that inclusivity and things to be done, you are actually one of the persons who goes beyond the lip service, because you have been hands-on in curating spaces, curating things to make life a lot easier and create that connectivity throughout the Caribbean region as well. So let me just say kudos to you for that. And it's not a surprise
Thank
that you
you.
said yes because I guess it aligns with your mission.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, Michelle, normally we start off on the show to get a little bit more insight. We want to know a little bit more about you, so we're gonna start there. We know Grenada is, but Grenada, where in Grenada, what was growing up like. We normally like to get a sense of the groundedness from childhood. What are some of the principles you believe that was instilled in you from then that you believe is shaped you into the person that you are today that you're proud of?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again. Good morning. Thank you for having me. And good morning to all the listeners throughout the Caribbean region. Good morning to all my friends who are logging in today. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here. As a matter of fact, it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for what you do as well,
Thank you.
bridging the Caribbean in this type of media. Who is this
Absolutely.
person, Michelle? I am Michele Francis. I am originally from Grenada. I reside in the United States right now. But let's dial back to Grenada a bit. You mentioned about growing up. So, for the many people, Grenada has, who does not know, Grenada is a three island state, which means we have three islands: Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Now, the cool thing is, I am from Petite Martinique, which is the
Oh.
smallest part of Grenada with 586 acre of land. Um, we make a living by boat building and fishing. We do not have, we got one little primary school that I taught in for 10 years. And so approximately 800 people. So that should tell you that everybody is either a second or third or fourth cousins. At one
True.
point, the entire staff in school, seven of us, we had like of the nine, seven of us had the same great grandparents.
Oh.
So it's very small. So, but growing up on the island has molded me because in my era, I don't know how to look at it. They're good and they're, the pros and cons. It's very closed in, very close knit family. We're very traditional, so we were not exposed to the grand things like this TikTok. Well, TikTok is recent, but the television and all of these things. So what did we do? We read. We read
Right.
books, and that's where your imagination grow, and you think beyond. So even if we were from a small island, as the Jamaicans themselves would say, we're little but we talawa.
Talawa.
Okay, so out of that little
Indeed.
island, I'm very honored to be able to I moved on and I traveled different places and I got curious about special needs.
Yeah.
Because during my year as a teacher, I did notice that children wasn't learning the same thing. And
Yeah.
back then in 1988, we have what is called the one size cap fits all
Right.
teacher chalk and talk type of concept. So that brought me on into studying special education. And
Right.
then I sort of branch off into zeroed in into autism, which brought me all the way around full circle back to where we are today. She speaks.
Oh my God. Right. Now, as an educator, like you said, back then, the information was so limited in terms of identifying children or persons probably on the spectrum. We really and truly we were so ignorant back then, and
Even now
we
today.
didn't know what to do with the information. Yeah, a lot of us are still very much so today. We didn't know what to do when we encountered persons who were on the spectrum. So we delving right into it because I want us to spend some time there. I know there's other things that you're doing. We're gonna give you an opportunity to go there as well. But this
Yes.
morning we just really go in with the energy,
Yes.
and letting it unfold like that. Now, like I said, we did not know what to do. Maybe there was signs, there were things that we identified, but when we did see those signs, our reaction to them were somewhat very different and maybe not the right ones most of the time. Was that when you decided you wanted? What did triggered you wanting to zero in on that specifically then?
Great question. And I get that question all the time. Now, if I should dial back a bit to what you mentioned, yes, autism isn't growing, it's not contagious like we hear a lot. What is happening now is the awareness.
Yeah.
So because of the awareness, you people are feeling a little more comfortable now, and it is not even just Grenada or Caribbean. There's a stigma attached to persons with any type of needs to begin with. So imagine a parents back then have a child who is doing all of these things, walking, interacting differently. That child back then was an embarrassment to the family. So you are ashamed of your child because your child does not talk the same way, your child does not behave the same way. And so most of the time, parents would hide those children.
Yeah.
As far back as I can remember my experience with autism, it's a relative of mine. I was little, but I looked at the things she did, and it did not dawn on me until after I started studying autism and I got in touch with my parents and I said, oh, that's what she had. So back then they said, and I'm sure that shows that Lucians could identify, they said, she have a ghost, a spirit, a thing, something wrong. And then they talk about baptizing. They talk about the bush. And I could, as I said, I'm so proud that I can talk about this from a Caribbean perspective because
Yes.
I know, the concept. They talk about this child need to bathe the child and do all of that. And I could clearly remember my family, this at one time, she was tied to the bed. But that time she had seizure, all of the other things that come with it. So to the initial question or the point that you made, back then, nobody know what to do. We're in 2026 and parents still don't know what to do. So imagine back in 1975 when was my first encounter with autism then. And in the 1980s, you just hide the child, you lock the child in a room, and if your country so happen to have a place, you send that child to a place never to be seen again. But these days are over.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God for that. Man. All right. So when you did decide to dive into this, what was the initial um, perspective? What did you want to achieve? What did you want to accomplish? You wanted to change that trajectory. You wanted to change that narrative. You wanted to change the concept of how it is that we understood what was happening. You wanted to educate.
Yes.
What was the mindset?
So initially, my mindset was to try to understand why are the children behaving the way they behave. Why, the communication. So with that mindset, I journeyed to study more in-depth autism. You can study special education and not you will just touch autism. But I went
Right.
into
Specifically.
the depth of autism. I'm always reading. I've read from Since Its Origin in Canada, from in a different key. That's that book about where they first started to discover, why the child was lining up all the toys, why the child wouldn't leave an activity to go to another one. So I really paid attention to that book, and I did a lot of training and studies. But that was one aspect. After that, I paid attention. Actually, let me dial a little bit. I held one of the first autism workshop held in Grenada, and
Right.
I had a sold out crowd at the stadium where I have it. Through that,
Wow.
through that activity, you do your survey, your feedback. What do you hear most? We want more. We want to learn more. And even though I had it in Grenada, I had feedback and correspondence from region. I had people reaching out to me as far as Botswana in
Nice.
Africa, and say Botswana and Sierra Leone, asking, can you do something like that here? Can you do? So I know it's not just Grenada per se, or it's just across the board. Mind you, we are getting better. We getting better, but once I realized that the children were learning differently, I came across autism, and then I started to, study more and start to join to create the awareness so that people would realize. Mind you, though, I had to remind my own people that after I share some of the characteristics, you don't just go around in town, supermarket, and seeing everybody who goes on a tippy toe, autism, who lifts the
Why
hand.
no?
Us might just be doing a clap sign for the deaf and hard of hearing, which is this. I'm like, you can't just say it's autism. That person is
Right.
actually clap cheering for, using the sign language. So it was very interesting in Grenada when I you do your pre-survey, what's your take on autism, and
Right.
some of the feedback, and I can share it because this is a Caribbean forum. I
Yes.
heard feedback like the family had cursed. It might have been a failed abortion, attempted abortion. Yes,
Yeah,
I
we get
got
that a lot.
all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that. And the list can go on. And as I'm saying, we were Caribbean people, but our culture are very similar. So it wouldn't surprise me that some of the same reasons sort of align itself throughout the region because we're Caribbean. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Also, you were, that also prompted you were also made history by publishing the first Caribbean book, children's book. Is it? Is it? Yeah,
Ah.
the
Oh,
children's
that's my
book.
that's
Yeah.
my prize. But yes. So very good segue there. Because once after the workshop, you hear a lot about, oh, we need training, we need this, we need that. We also have, might I share, the Caribbean Disability Network, which I am affiliated with. That network has members from all CARICOM state with an agenda to promote advocacy for disability and inclusiveness. During that workshop, the last workshop in Barbados, I was honored to present on some of the training, speak with teachers and things like that. You get the same sentiment throughout the Caribbean. So now I also am a person of action. And I don't just believe in we need training, we need training, we need training, we need a resource, we need resource. I've been hearing it in multiple tones and
Right.
medium. So what did I do? I studied, I went and I created not just a book, which I have with me, and I'm sure your viewers can see it at the background. It
Yes.
says, it says, my
My
family is
family is
different,
different.
and that's
That's
okay.
okay.
And it's the a Caribbean children's story on autism. So that was one from out of all of the research that I did. I felt it was time that I give my service back to the region. That's what I do in the US where I am here. I actually work with, that's my field here. So
Oh,
I feel
okay.
it's I can give some service back by providing not just a book, but I also did a workbook.
Okay.
So not just a
Right.
workbook, but I also have a teacher's guide on
Guide.
how to teach, how to start the conversation, how to teach inclusiveness within your classroom. And the book is very Caribbean. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about it. I mean, it can go on. I can go on for days about
About
this book
this.
because everything in this book is Caribbean and relatable. When a child opened this, and you look in the classroom, this is what a classroom look like. You can recognize Dominica, we got Jamaica, we have Barbados, St. Kitts, Nevis, Haiti, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia. All of the countries are represented in this book, making it very relatable for children and teachers. And I mean, I'll pause here so I know you have some questions because I can talk about this for the rest of the day.
We could talk about this for the rest of the day. We're going to give information as to where this book can be obtained in a minute. But, on a personal level, though, I wanted to wire back down a little bit as to, Yeah, you studied this, but what is fueling that passion? What on a personal level is fueling that passion to want to make that difference so boldly? So why do you believe that is so necessary?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked. This is my heart. This is something that is driving from my heart. That's my passion because I've seen so many families being left aside. I've heard from so many families who are feeling that they don't belong, their child don't belong, the embarrassment that they feel with the child. There's siblings who are embarrassed of their siblings. This book is written from the voice of a sibling. I am
Okay.
also the founder of the sibling workshop, which is something I have at the US where we help sibling understand how to relate to their sibling with a disability. Because oftentimes we focus on the child so much and we're not realizing how it's impacting the caregiver, the mother, the dad, the sibling. It takes a village to work with a child with autism and, as a matter of fact, any type of disability.
Oh
Yeah.
my. Wow, Michelle, listen, man. There's so much happening here.
I know.
But I wanted to spend some time when you get to the autism part of the thing and you start to going, it's hard to move away from it,
You can.
because it's relevant. It's always been relevant, but the fact
Yeah.
that now a lot more effort is being made.
Yes.
I think it's so vital for us all, like you said, the village. Us, and when we say the village, we mean everyone, whether it's across the waters, whether it's for us to come together and make this thing meaningful and effective, because more and more we are beginning to realize that what, this thing has no favor, no friends. You understand? It could be you tomorrow with a person that you're caring for, that happens to be in that on the spectrum, and you would want to know that persons feel that level of inclusivity.
Yes.
They have a contribution. Listen, man. And oftentimes too in the workplaces, we meaningfully employed, they have room for them to be engaged and to contribute to the society, just like any of us. And we
Oh,
normally say
yes.
different, but who is to say that our different is the one that is the right one?
Correct.
Sometimes we
That's why we say
we're
we all have a spectrum in us. Who say, and I did, so, I mean, let me just chime in a little bit. I
yes,
actually made that statement a while back. I said, but who say we are the ones that are normal? Normal?
absolutely,
How
you
do we
get
know?
me.
Because when you meet somebody with autism, you meet one person with autism, meaning it's a spectrum. It's neurodiverse, neuro, and
Right,
so there is no one single thing, but you
right.
have like a number of characteristics that would combine to come up with that eligibility. But you look at the behavior, communication needs. Sometimes I don't feel like interacting and doing a lot of things. I rather be for myself on my own. It's a characteristics of autism. They don't, and sometimes you find people that are just like things the way they like it. So that's
Yes,
why, given the fact there's a spectrum, we say we all have, it's just the level or the severity of it. If
exactly.
you, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned about the
Sure.
schools. They
Yes,
are doing a lot of awareness now, and I'm happy about that. I
yes.
also had the opportunity to present to talk about inclusion versus integration.
Ah,
So, and I just wanted to point that out. I hope your listeners are educators as well, and some of them are ministers, because a lot of the government, which is a good move in the right place, good intentions, are talking about inclusion. We have an inclusion now, but in fact, what is happening, which is a good start, is integration, which is the kids are in the classroom, but just in a little bubble for themselves. They're really not involved in a lot of the things that are happening. Because
oh,
sometimes educators, and even here I've experienced it in the US, that's one of yours. That's yours. Oh, is that one of yours over there? That's what I hear all the time.
oh
All
yeah.
children belong to the classroom. Everyone belong. And in my book, one of the pages here would be, it talks about Josh. Josh feels belong in his classroom. And I specifically said, Josh is excited when he is included in all the activities within the
Ah,
classroom. So dial back again. You're gonna find me dialing back to my heart here.
that's fine.
Is the book is not it's understanding autism through a story. So what we need to do, we need to create awareness and acceptance, but that starts with education.
Yeah.
And education starts young. So if we start from the grassroots up, and we could people, students learn how to be accepting and kind and belonging and compassionate, it will see in the next couple of years or 10, 15, 20 years that we are now developing a population of youngsters and people who are understanding and compassionate. That in itself, understanding the views of someone else, that social emotional awareness is going to assist our youths with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
When students are able to understand their feelings and the feelings of others, then we will see mental health, sorry, a better approach to how we handle mental health, because we have autism, disability autism, and mental health is a whole other
Yeah.
conversation that we'll have to take a week to discuss again. But I
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
wanted to segue a little bit because
No problem.
it's yeah.
Michelle, how can we got about 2 minutes left, but that's fine. How can we, as a Caribbean region, right, use the concept of inclusion to make a greater impact in dealing with
Well,
these
it starts
conversation
with
and this
policies. It starts with
right.
policies. We have to have things in place. And with policies, we should have accountability. Because even if they have all of the inclusiveness happening in school and a child have a right to go to school, that child could go, if there's no one to held accountable, then it's just policies on paper. You
Right.
see, we want to move from policies on paper to action, accountability. Then we can start to talk about inclusion and inclusiveness within the Caribbean region.
Right. And as far as we facing these sort of topics head on as a unit, a Caribbean unit,
Yes.
what say you to that as opposed to each island doing their own thing? How does it
Yes, I am
enhance us
happy.
to face it as a region?
We should, because it's not I'm handling it, you handle it. This is an impact in the entire Caribbean region. That's why my goal is to get my entire resource into the. I've had teachers in other countries saying to me, can you get this on OECS Pearl, which is a hub where all regional teachers, CARICOM teachers can access.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
rather than having one country, because I have country who is interested, I'm working on sending them, they were doing preview. But rather than having one or two countries, if we get this through the OECS, then we have equitable access for all educators within the Caribbean that would have hands on Caribbean relatable material, no big training, ready to implement inclusive education within the Caribbean region.
And with the movement now, the free movement of us as a Caribbean people, well,
Yes,
that's what we're saying. It'll be better, easier, because if for some reason a child with autism or special needs child has to
travel.
relocate to
Yes,
another Caribbean country, it is already the text, the teachings, it's already at a uniformed sort of thing. I think
thank
this would
you.
augur so well for us. Oh God,
Thank you.
I hope we've got the vision like this, and I hope we're seeing things from that
Well, we have
standpoint.
to
I
push people like you and me. And, I have a lot of parents. I get a lot of educators and personnel. They're saying this needs to be Caribbean. And I also do
Yeah.
have a couple of bookstores in different countries that I'm collaborating with to get it out. Because the book is a standalone. But when it comes for classroom, it's actually a resource kit for the entire Caribbean region. The book is
Wow.
available on Amazon right now by its name and, the look of it. Um,
Yes.
but it will be in the Caribbean region. Hopefully, this summer I will be traveling around, meeting some of collaborating. Other than that, best bet once we get into the OECS. So if anyone there can
I
connect
know,
with the
right?
OECS hub, this
Yes.
is your tool, supplemental to help.
Absolutely. Michelle, we definitely need to stay connected in more ways because I think we need to push the boundaries on this one right there
Oh,
and
yes.
at least start that. But we're definitely going to keep connected. I'm going to open up for you now, the platform for you now. If there's anything, any take home you'd like to leave with our viewers and listeners before we wrap up, it's definitely your turn.
Well, again, as I said, um, there's a lot to learn, and we're always learning. If the book, I said, is just because it's a children's story, it's a community. This book is really meant to start the conversation. It's meant to make sure that families feel less seen. Children can see themselves in this book. One thing that may point out, someone in St. Lucia said, my son said, Mom, Josh is like me. We don't need fixing. That for me was one of the most powerful reviews that I've got on this book. We need to bond together to make sure that my family is different, and that's okay.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the passion you pour into
Pleasure
this.
to be
And,
here.
I can't wait for when we see that materialize. This initiative spreads beyond the shores of just Grenada and the other islands who have taken on. But when we can actually relate on that matter as a region, as one body, certainly. So thank you again so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you
It's a
very
pleasure.
much.
And thank you to all the viewers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Michelle, bye. Thank you very much, love.
Same here.
Absolutely. Good. So there you have it, guys. Michelle Francis, an author, an educator, speaker. She does quite a lot, but she has devoted her life work to specializing or zeroing on autism. And, she really did go in and do a lot of researches, and she's now using those constant research and what she's learned and so sort of like bring back to the Caribbean so that as a Caribbean region we are better able to not just integration but inclusion at beyond the lip service, you understand, and we can definitely begin to start relating to things like autism and special needs as a region, taking it on as a region, and then creating that sort of framework and platform where we really and truly you know utilizing the people within the region to foster regional togetherness, oneness, and dealing with our issues, as a one body. I really think that is something, a beautiful thing, and I really do hope that the right people were listening, and that she'll be able to connect with the people. I mean, that OECS pearl that she speak about, I think, yeah, that could be a good thing as well. So let's hope that the right people heard, and we can see some positive movement in that regard. Certainly, that's our show for today. It's now already 4 minutes after 11 o'clock. Calix, good morning. Calix, big up you. Hey, Calix, big up you. Thank you for lending your voice and your attention to the show. Oh, that would have excited you. Yes, Calix, thank you for endorsing as well. And everybody else who were on the stream and who made contributions, thank you very much. And of course, it remains there on our Facebook and our YouTube, so persons could always go back and take a look at it as well. So that's my time in your company for today. Certainly, we definitely going to be back again tomorrow, but She Speaks is definitely going to be back again next Tuesday. Thank you again to the First National Bank, our partners, for ensuring they continue to really, really hold our hands and back us up in this regard. We look forward to our next show next week, and stay tuned for Hyper D. Here's next.
First National Bank is here for you. Let's make your first wish come true. With a mortgage built around you, tailored to make sure everything's smooth. 100% financing, it's true. Get a first wish mortgage, it's the best move. Get your mortgage now and fulfill your first wish. Just knowing that First National Bank is here for you. Let's make your first wish come true.
Visit your First National Bank branch or firstnationalbankonline.com to apply for your First Wish mortgage.
First National Bank.
Established in 1961 and still going strong.
Like, really? No. Shut up.
Radio Caribbean International. We are number